And Marcus, you've been looking at what the new Italian Prime Minister is up to. He's unveiled a series of reforms.
Yeah, Matteo Renzi, he's pledging to boost Italy's battered economy within 100 days. And to that effect, as you were just saying there, he's put forward a package of economic reforms. The flagship measure is a €10 billion tax cut for low and middle income workers. Renzi says it will put €1,000 back into the pockets of 10 million Italians. In a bid to boost hiring, Renzi also wants to lower taxes for businesses. In return, he wants to hike the capital gains tax and also launch a spending review. He says the reforms are possible without breaking the budget. Now, Renzi is trying to boost the Eurozone's third largest economy after 2 consecutive years of recession. But he needs the approval of the Italian parliament, and that could be easier said than done. Our correspondent Seema Gupta told us more earlier about Renzi's balancing act.
He needs the approval from the lower house and the Senate in order to get these legislation, if you like, approved. And at the moment, it still remains to be seen. He also needs to deal with the interest groups, whether it's the unions on one side or the business lobby on the other. We'll have to examine in detail what exactly he's presented today and whether it makes all parties happy. And if some of them are too left-leaning, he's not likely to get the support of his centre-right partners who want to see things done particularly in a different way.
That was Seema Gupta speaking to us earlier there from Rome. Moving on now, the maker of the mobile game Candy Crush Saga has unveiled the details of its much-awaited share float later this month. Game maker King plans to sell more than 15 million shares for between $21 and $24 each in New York. That price range values the UK-based company at up to $7.6 billion. King is one of many companies this year to opt for an IPO here in Europe as they try to capitalize on an improved economic picture. Delana D'Souza has more.
King Digital Entertainment hit a sweet spot with Candy Crush. They are set to list on the New York Stock Exchange in late March, a listing that could value the company just under $7.6 billion. Candy Crush Saga was the most downloaded app of 2013. King won't be able to rely on its success forever though, and needs new games to keep people hooked. King's listing is creating a lot of buzz, but it's far from alone to turn to the markets this year. Europe saw its biggest listing in January when Numericab's majority owner Altice sold €1.8 billion worth of shares. Retailers in the UK have also jumped on board. High street names Poundland and Pets at Home listed in London on Wednesday, raising over $1 billion. Analysts say the rush to the stock markets highlights a return in confidence. Impressive gains from newly listed companies have also whet investor appetites. Britain's Royal Mail, for instance, has seen its stock price almost double since its IPO in October. European companies raised more than $36 billion from IPOs last year. 2014 has seen a strong start to the year, and more companies are headed to the stock market.
Okay, that takes us to a look at the stock markets. And in the United States, we've seen the markets closing pretty flat this session. The Dow Jones Industrial Average lost somewhat, whereas the Nasdaq powered ahead, run about 0.4%. Concerns of a slowdown in China and tensions over Ukraine are still seen to be weighing on shares. But as I say, over in the United States, we saw a pretty flat close. It was a little bit more of a negative picture in Europe earlier, with the same concerns weighing on the markets on this side of the Atlantic. I've been talking about Ukraine and also about the slowdown in China. The Frankfurt DAX took a real hit. It was down 1.3%. The CAC 40 here in Paris, it was down 1%. Similar picture there for the FTSE 100 in London. We're going to finish up with this story. French billionaire Vincent Bolloré is trying to sell his car-sharing scheme to Londoners. He wants to park 3,000 electric cars on the streets of the British capital by 2016 and also install thousands of charging points to try to boost those electric vehicles. The billionaire's Bolloré Group already operates a similar scheme called Autolib here in Paris. Vincent Bolloré is also eyeing the United States and wants to start a car-sharing scheme in Indianapolis in the state of Indiana, later on this year. I have to say I'm not a member just yet of Autolib. Perhaps one day I will be one, because I think it's a pretty nifty idea to drive electric cars around city streets. What do you say, Laura?
Yeah, as long as you don't run out of batteries.
That's true. But if you have a lot of charging points in one
But
city,
that's
I
the thing,
suppose you won't face that problem.
Is there a lot of charging points though? That's the problem.
I think there's around about 1,400 or so in Paris, and Vincent Bolloré, he's looking to install around about 1,600 in London, if I remember my figures correctly.
Marcus, I'm going to stick to Velib. The bicycle version, that is. All right, thanks very much indeed. That's Marcus there with all the day's top business news. We're going to take a short break and leave you with web news. Stay with us, more news and headlines to come right afterwards.